Alright, doing a book review today. Hi, my name is Kate. I'm going to do a book review of The Great Gatsby, which is a 1920 classic, yes. And this is for Phil DeFranco's 50 books in 50 weeks book club thing. Yes, the plot of the book is basically that there's this guy named Nick, and he's decided to move to this neighborhood on the east side of Long Island, which is a place near New York. So he's moved to this rich neighborhood and he's realized that he's living next to this guy called Gatsby. And Mr. Gatsby holds these wild, crazy parties like all the time throughout the week. And the interesting thing is that nobody really knows who Mr. Gatsby is. Nobody, like, these people just kind of show up to these parties and they just have a good time and don't even know who the host is. There's like all these rumors that he's like a spy and that he's a bootlegger and he's this and that, and nobody knows at all. So anyway, eventually he gets invited to one of these parties and he actually gets to meet Mr. Gatsby for real. So I really love how they actually introduced the character of Mr. Gatsby into the story, because you see, he's a title character. You imagine that these sorts of characters would have a more grand entrance, but not him, no. Okay, Nick's at the party and he's with his friend Miss Baker and he's like with a bunch of other people. They start chatting. He starts chatting with this guy and they're like kind of getting along. It's like, it's cool, man, yeah. And then he's like, Nick's like, oh, you know, I just got invited to this party, you know, I'm just live next door. I didn't even know this Gatsby guy, he's such an enigma. And then the other bloke he was just talking to is like, I'm Gatsby. And then Nick's like, oh my god, oh, sorry, wow, yeah, nice to meet you, yeah. Okay, so when you first start reading the book, it does kind of start out a bit slow. You're just sort of being introduced to characters, and I don't know, you don't really sort of care, at least I didn't in the beginning. I was like, okay, it's, you know, but then you want to keep reading because you want to find out who Mr. Gatsby is. Yeah, it really makes you want to keep reading it. And I really love the dialogue a whole lot. It's kind of like being in a room watching a conversation between a group of really witty people at times. So anyway, after we, you know, actually get to meet Mr. Gatsby, that's when the story really lifts off, and it's when it really starts to get interesting, because what we find out is that Mr. Gatsby, small spoiler, has been in love with someone for the past 5 years that he hasn't seen in 5 years. He arranges it that he actually gets to meet her through Nick. And it's great. Because we meet this character, Mr. Gatsby, and he's really polite and confident and well-spoken and just together, you know? He like has a private moment with Nick at one point while this like little party with this woman's going on, and he's like freaking out. He's like, oh no, this is a terrible idea, oh this is not going well, this is terrible. He's like, So Nick interjects and he's like, you're acting like a schoolboy, you're just, pull yourself together, man, you're being rude, you left her alone in the room. Pull yourself together, man. And it's great. I do dislike sometimes in this book at how Scott Fitzgerald, the author, kind of goes, to me, too deep into like the environment and the feeling of everything around you. And you know, I'm reading and I just feel like I'm sort of going to sleep and sort of waiting for the plot to start up again. And also, I don't know if this is really negative or positive, but it really like surprised me in moments where the time period that this book was written in sort of shines through. Like the little racist things that pop up. Like in the beginning, Tom is talking about how he's read this book about how that other minorities and people are going to take over the white race. And isn't that terrifying? But then I guess people really thought like that back then. And like also when they just talk about extra characters, like one line is like, oh, a pale, well-dressed Negro walked up. Like, things like that. This is also sort of a minor spoiler, but it just, like, flabbergasted me how casual, Tom, that he's cheating on his wife, and he's kind of just really casual about it. He just sort of, like, and it seems like everybody knows, and he doesn't care. I don't know. Because in the next chapter, he actually convinces Nick to come along and meet this other woman, and he's like, come meet my girl, Nick. You know, and I'm like, what is this? The book does have a sad ending, but despite that, I still really liked the book. It's really interesting because Mr. Gatsby leaves in the end, and he essentially leaves with nothing, and it, as a result, sort of like the rest of the characters, it just kind of all collapses, and everybody kind of moves on their own, and it kind of, like how it started, it just all went back to nothing. So it's kind of like all good things must end, and it's sad, and I don't know if I'm reading maybe too deep into that, I don't know. That's just what I thought at the end. It just kind of dispersed, and it just ended quietly and became nothing. So yes, so after reading this book, I'm really stoked to see the movie when it comes out in several months. I've already seen the first 2 trailers, and watching the trailers, I'm like, I recognize all the scenes, and I recognize all the lines, and it's great! And I'm just super happy, and it just looks the movie looks like it's gonna be pretty accurate, and it's pretty spectacular visually. So I think I give this book maybe a 7.5 out of 10, because it is a book that I can see people reading and not enjoying, but it is very good in itself, and it's very interesting and witty. So yeah, so that's my review of The Great Gatsby. I hope you enjoyed it. Alright, okay, thank you very much.